So you're telling me a rocket company just paid $60 billion for an app that finishes your code for you? That's not a typo, and it's not a joke I'm setting up. SpaceX, the people who land rockets on floating barges, agreed to buy Anysphere, the maker of an AI coding tool called Cursor, in an all-stock deal worth roughly $60 billion. This is either the smartest acquisition in tech this year or one of the most insane. And honestly, I'm not sure which yet. Yeah. This is the same Elon who once bought a social network on a whim for $44 billion and renamed it a single letter. So you'd be forgiven for filing this under impulse buy number 900. But this one might actually be a chess move 3 turns deep. So do me a favor and subscribe, then like the video if this theory holds up. Because give me 10 seconds and I'll explain why a guy obsessed with Mars suddenly wants control of your autocomplete. Done? Good. Back to the rockets. My take, and it's the whole video in one line. This was never about coding software. It's about who controls the engineers building the future, human and artificial alike. So let's walk it through together. What Cursor even is, why anyone would pay $60 billion for it, what Elon actually wants, and the elephant in the room. Does this make any sense at all? First, Cursor. It's a coding tool that doesn't just sit there waiting for you to type. It's more like a pair programmer who already read your entire code base and is leaning over your shoulder going, "Here, let me." The founders built it as a fork of the editor every developer already uses, but they baked the AI into the core instead of bolting it on as an afterthought. And developers didn't just try it, they got obsessed. Instead of writing a function, a dev now basically types out a sentence like, "Hey, build me a login page that talks to the database," and the thing just does it. The whole platform spits out nearly 1 billion lines of code a day. That's worth a second. Slack took 5 years to hit $1 billion in annual revenue. Zoom took 9. Cursor crossed its first billion in about 3 years, and then doubled it in a single quarter. By May of 2026, estimates had it running at $4 billion in annualized revenue. It's the fastest growing software company of all time, and it wasn't close. Now, the price tag, $60 billion. This is a company founded in 2022 by 4 friends from MIT during late-night hackathons. 4 years ago, they raised a pre-seed round of $400,000 to even start building. $60 billion for a company that, depending on who's counting, has somewhere between 300 and 1,400 employees. That works out to a valuation that makes each of the 4 co-founders worth around $2.5 billion on paper. Not bad for being annoyed at how repetitive coding was. Now I can hear the objection already, because I had it too. Isn't this insane money for what's basically a fancy wrapper around someone else's AI? And the answer is, you're not paying for the code. You're paying for the category lead. Cursor is used across more than half of the Fortune 500. Salesforce has a case note about 20,000 of its engineers using it with over 90% adoption. NVIDIA's CEO Jensen Huang called it his favorite enterprise AI service. When OpenAI tried to buy it, Cursor said no, twice. When Microsoft looked at it, they decided not to even put in a bid. You don't pay a wrapper price for the thing every other AI giant wishes they had. So the real question is, why SpaceX, of all the buyers on Earth? And this is where the strange part starts to feel less strange. Because Elon's empire doesn't really run on rockets, it runs on code. SpaceX is basically 4 companies in a trench coat. Falcon launches, Dragon crewed flights, Starlink internet for over 7 million users, and Starship aiming at Mars. Every one of those is mountains of software. Tesla's entire self-driving stack, the over-the-air updates, all of it, written and maintained by engineers. And earlier this year, SpaceX absorbed Elon's AI company, xAI, the one that builds Grok. So now the whole thing is one stack. Grok already lives in your Tesla dashboard, answers your Starlink support tickets, and reads the live feed of X. Owning Cursor means owning the tool your own engineers use to write the code that builds the rockets that carry the satellites that run the AI. It's vertical integration taken to a genuinely deranged conclusion, stated completely calmly in an investor filing. And this next part is the real prize. It isn't the app at all. SpaceX literally said in its IPO filing that Cursor's access to developer behavior is a goldmine for training the next generation of AI models. Think about what that means. Every time 1 million daily developers accept a suggestion, fix a bug, or rewrite a function, the system learns how real professionals build complex things. That's one of the strongest training signals in all of AI, and now Elon owns the pipe. So is this a defensive moat, just buying it so OpenAI can't? Or is it a real vision? The skeptic in me says, sure, it's a panic purchase to keep Grok relevant, because enterprise clients have largely been ignoring Grok. But the believer in me sees the other half. Cursor hands Elon instant credibility with professional developers, and a much faster road to those fat corporate contracts. He didn't just buy a product. He bought a relationship with millions of engineers and the data trail they leave behind. Which brings us to what this whole thing actually signals. Software that writes software, owned by the company that wants to colonize Mars. Elon's been saying AI will reach what he calls stockfish level coding, meaning it'll just be flatly better at writing code than humans, the way the chess engine is flatly better at chess. Now run that forward. If the AI writes the code that builds the rocket, who, exactly, is the engineer? So you're in the chair for a second. You're a junior developer, 2 years out of school, and you just got access to the company's shiny new tool. You describe the feature in plain English, and you watch it write, in 8 seconds, the thing that would have taken you all afternoon. You feel that little jolt of magic, and then, right behind it, a much colder feeling. The tool didn't ask you for help. It asked you to approve. And you start to wonder whether your job is to build things or just to nod at the machine that builds them. That's the future this $60 billion is betting on. So, back to the impulse buy theory. Maybe Elon really is just the guy who buys whatever shiny object catches his eye that week. Or maybe the madman has a map, and we're all just standing too close to read it. Either way, the stock jumped 8% on the news and pushed SpaceX past $2.7 trillion in value, so somebody believes him. I genuinely don't know if this is the smartest deal of the decade or the most expensive case of hubris in tech history, and I think that uncertainty is the most honest place to land. So tell me in the comments, is this the smartest acquisition of the decade, or is it Elon overpaying again? And developers, I really want to hear this one. Has Cursor or anything like it actually started replacing a real part of your job yet? I'll see you in the next one.